We have our white chocolate, 3 layers, 8-inch cake, an 8-inch 3-layer white chocolate cake with a white chocolate buttercream. Dip up the cake flour, and we're still gonna sift it because sifting just helps make it lighter. This cake calls for the yolk of the egg only. So we're gonna separate these. I already have some egg whites. Just keep collecting the egg whites. Use it to make an omelet. This one did not break as perfectly as I planned. So one way you can do it, you can grab a egg separator. And especially when they break kind of wonky and not where you can use the shell. And you can, I actually need to put this over here because then we want the yolk, not the, so I'm going to pour that. And separate it. Gently shake because sometimes the yolk can go through the hole. So this So this recipe calls for white chocolate in the cake as well as melted white chocolate in the ice. And so I'm going to separate the melting of both of those. I'm not going to melt it all at one time because I don't want it to harden. So in total, we're going to use 3 baking bars of white chocolate. I'm going to use 1.5 for the cake, which we're making first. I'll use a whole one, and then I'm going to use 1/2 of one. And to also help the melting process, I am going to cut these into the squares that they are already in. And I'm cutting it in the paper just to kind of help so that my counter doesn't get quite a few chocolate shavings on them. It's more to have to clean up. Then we will dump these. And you may be saying, well, why is she putting this in a pot? I am using a double boiler to melt the chocolate. You could use the microwave. I just find that with the microwave, sometimes you can tend to get it too hot and it hardens too fast. When I melt on the stove using the double boiler method, I'm able to control the temperature by raising up the pot out of the water, stirring a little bit. So it just works better for me, but you can definitely do this in the microwave in increments. I would say of increments of 30 seconds so you don't get the chocolate too hot. If you're doing the microwave, you want to use a microwavable safe bowl. So you're not going to use a pan. All right, so let's move to the stove. We have our water. I did not fill this pot up. You just want to put maybe like 1/4 of a way. So fill it 1/4 of a way. And we are going to allow this to melt. We're not going to disturb it. As the water's heating up, it will start to melt the chocolate bars. So you just want to leave it there and let it start melting. And I prefer to allow this pot to heat up at the same time that this pot is heating so that it's all happening at one time. You don't have boiling hot water and you're submerging a pot. We're starting to melt. Good deal. And I'm just kind of moving the chocolate a little bit so that it doesn't stick or burn now that it is melting down. All right, our chocolate is melted. I'm raising it up and I'm gonna allow it to cool on the stove. So that will cool as we begin making our cake. Chocolate's broken down. I think we're good. Push those back. Stagger them like so. Okay, so for the sake of time, these did just come out of the oven, but however, I made some cake layers last night and they are in the freezer. So we will use those to stack our cake and serve. And so these are cooling. These are the ones that we just made a few minutes ago. They came out of the oven, allowing them to cool. I will wrap those and chill them and use them another time. I always encourage that you chill your cake layers before icing so that you avoid crumbs in your icing, as well as it just makes it an easier, a smooth coating as you're going through the process. So now we're going to move to making our frosting for the cake. And so I am back at the stove, as you can see, and I am melting the other 6 ounces of white chocolate. And I'm doing this over the double boil. I'm using the double boiler method, and we're gonna melt this down and allow it to cool while we begin creaming our butter and powdered sugar together. All right, let's move to the mixer. A cup of butter, so we're gonna do 2 sticks of butter. So we're gonna mix this, cream the butter down. It's gonna make a little noise till we get it going. Start with 2 cups. Spoon this in, roughly about 3 cups. I'm going to slowly add in this white chocolate. Okay. And we have a 3-layer cake, so I'm gonna use roughly about 4 to 5 cups of powdered sugar. Again, we're going with the, as you add in, you go slow. Once you get it in there, you go a little faster. Fast and slow, fast and slow. Now I'm going to start alternating a little milk in to smooth out the icing frosting further, but also I'm using half and half to give it an extra richness, as if it really needs it, but it'll help smooth this out. All right, I am really concentrating on this. And I don't know why I'm doing this so hard, because it's one of my favorite cakes. It's not like I don't know how to make it. Plus, I've made a mess. This is distracting. For all of that. And this is also, a perfect time to start tasting it, because you don't want to get it too sweet and not know until you're taking your first bite. So we are going to now, cakes that I made last night, and I did wrap them, and I froze them overnight. So those are the cakes that we're going to use. The cakes that we baked are sitting over there still cooling, so we're going to go with the ones that I froze. So I always encourage that if you are baking a layered cake, allow your cakes to fully cool, chill them before stacking and icing them or frosting them. There is a difference between icing and frosting. I'm going to unwrap these, level them. And when I say level them, that's usually taking off the thin layer on the top in the event that it baked uneven. And I'm using a bread knife to go through the cake. Concentration at its finest. There we go. I'm gonna kind of set the plastic in between these because they are frozen. It's a great time to taste the cake as well, which I did that yesterday, but also make sure that it tastes good. You know it's good when you like sucking your teeth trying to get all of it out, just from that small bite that I just had. Straight across, because digging, you will uneven it. And I said that because I felt myself digging. It wasn't intentional. I think the one on the bottom is the tallest. And you can also use a cake leveler. I just find it for me to freehand, it's easier for me. Straighten this up and we will begin stacking. And these pieces here that I have cut off are good pieces to nibble on or make like cookie cake cups. So we won't throw those away. We'll use them for later. Okay. So I'm going to take a small dab. I'm using an 8-inch cake board. Makes it for easy transport, even though I'm eating this here. In the event I want to share. So we are going to sit that there. Fit this on top. Totally up to you. I like to do about 3/4 cup of icing to 1/4 of a cup of icing in between the layers. And we're going to move this around. Make sure you want to come to the edges of the cake. Light hand, if your icing is smooth, you shouldn't have to force it. See, I'm slowly gliding it over the cake and just working it to the edge. All the way around. And I think it's okay for when you're stacking your cake for some icing to hang over the edge. Help with the crumb coating that you do on the top, so don't be so anal about it. Crumbs on here. Okay, so we are going to sit this one on top. And in the event that there are some, I don't necessarily need crumbs on it, or it's uneven on one side. I'm trying to see. See, like this should be, I don't know if you can see it. So I feel like how it looks now, it's kind of sloped down. And I feel like it should be like right there to be even, if I'm looking at this right. So what I'm going to do to even that is stick some icing right in there, if I'm not mistaken. I turned it around so you could see. Yeah, that's the right spot. So what I'm gonna do, just, raise this up a little bit. I think that's even. That's even. It's just little things like that. And you want to make sure it's lined up. All right, I'm gonna add some to the top. Getting a little warm in here. It's concentration, I tell you. Remember, as my mom said, when you're baking at home, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it sure as hell needs to be good. Don't want to overanalyze it too hard. Baking should be about having fun and getting a reward at the end. A good, delicious reward. Because what are we doing? All we want to do is just satisfy a craving that we have. As long as I get a slice, you get a slice, we're happy. Everyone else gets a slice and they're happy. It's a win-win. And that's even. Just gonna push the ice frosting to the edge. And the top one, we're going to make sure we put the bottom side, not the side that we cut, on it. And one thing I didn't discuss, I know some people do this. They base their layers in between with either milk or simple syrup. You can do that if your cake tends to be dry. This cake is not dry. It didn't bake out dry. So we're not doing that. The cake layers came out perfect. for this cake. So we're not doing that. But if you do happen to overbake the cake a little bit, when you are stacking it, you can add moisture back into the cake by swiping it, dabbing it with milk or simple syrup if you have some on hand. But again, this cake ain't dry. You know what I didn't do? But I think it's good. I'm getting excited now because we're almost to the end for a slice. Now, because this is the top layer, I'm going to add a little more to make it thick, and I want it to be even. What I'm going to do is show you the way that I first learned to frost a cake. I always say it's very remedial, but I think it's great for beginners or those that are intimidated. It does require a little extra work. And then we are going to take, I use this side, and in the event that icing gets on there, at least it's on the bottom and not on the top. Put it on there, flip it over. This way, you're able to get a smooth top. And since I am doing the crumb coat, I am going to, any excess icing that I get, I'm going to wipe it off in this bowl so that I don't get crumbs. And you just take it and go up with the spatula that I use so that I don't get crumbs from here back in the, and I'm doing a generous crumb coat. This is for the house, it's not for someone, so we're gonna eat this. And while I'm putting my hand up here, I'm not pressing down. So if you are someone that kind of feels awkward sometimes, because I do, if you're using your hand at the top, just be sure that you're not pressing down on the cake. So I've already chilled it after the, what I consider to be my final coat. I feel like icing, frosting, let me call it what it is a preference. I want to experience the cake more so. So, and as you can see, I don't have crumbs because I chilled it coming off on the cake. Just hold it up and roast it. Now what I'm going to do, we're going to flip this because the top of the cake is at the bottom. So we're going to slightly sit this. Trying to pick up the board. Flip. I'm going to sit it on the plate. Whoops, the board went. There we go. Pick this up. I'm going to do a couple of flips here without applying too much pressure, and I did make a slight boo. We'll get this one, and I can fix that. Pulling off this. So I'll use the rest of this icing, putting it on the top, not on the bottom or on the sides. And we are going to, and I'm just kind of doing this to give a little, and to use up the icing. Right. So this is our cake. White chocolate cake layers, 3 8-inch white chocolate cake layers with a white chocolate buttercream, and we're going to enjoy. So again, we have our white chocolate 3 layers 8-inch cake, an 8-inch 3-layer white chocolate cake with a white chocolate buttercream. And we are now at the reward. So we're gonna cut a piece. I'm gonna do a sliver, like the old people say. I'm gonna cut just give me a sliver. And I'm using a straight inch. You know what? Now that we've gotten the photos out of the way, this is real life. Like the constant maneuvering, because this thing is moving. And I don't need it to be moving while I'm cutting. We're gonna take this off of here because we have accomplished the aesthetics of this. And put it back on here so it does not slide. My rubber mat keeps it from sliding. I'm using a straight edge knife to go down. The bread knives, I just feel like they give a jigsaw cut, and that's not what I want in my cake. Tad bit particular about certain things. Use the knife. I left some in there, but it's okay. It's still gonna be good. I want this. But as you can see, the sponge, the cake sponge is looking good. Part of my cake is still inside the cake. But have nice coating layers of icing in between. Still a little cold because we're moving through the process a little bit. That hit me. Oh, that was so good. I haven't had a good piece of cake in a while because I've not been eating sweets. So this is definitely satisfying my craving. That felt good to my soul. That felt good. But you do want to allow your cake to fully come to room temperature before serving it. So if you are putting it in the freezer, put it in the refrigerator for a little bit or set it out on the counter for about 30 minutes before serving. But this, I'm trying to give up sweets, but you know what? Being a baker, it ain't happening. Thank y'all for joining me in my kitchen today. We made a white chocolate cake. My heart is happy. My soul is dancing. Until next time, you can get the recipe on veethebaker.com, and I hope to see you again soon.